It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
One just has to pick up a magazine or turn on a television to see that as women, we are bombarded daily with media images of female physical perfection, setting up the most unrealistic of expectations as to how we should look. No wonder female body confidence is falling while incidents of eating disorders are on the rise. What's most alarming is the way this affects young girls. A reduced sense of self-worth can create anxiety, stress, even depression, causing relationship issues while potentially impairing academic and job performance. In direct contrast, Confidence in Bloom is designed to reinforce the truth and reassure every woman who has ever felt inadequate, unworthy, or tossed aside because of how she looks, that no matter her age, shape, or background, you matter, you are enough now. I, Tina Spolatini, a woman of substance, insist women deserve to be happy, confident, successful, and totally in love with themselves, in their own bodies, just the way they are. Through an ongoing series of intriguing conversations with women from all walks of life who are all extraordinary in their own right, we will embark upon a journey of ultimate self-acceptance and empowerment. Together, we'll share stories, laugh, learn, maybe even shed a few tears when it becomes clear just how far many women have come to realize how wonderful life is when you stand in your own power, feeling fantastic in your own skin. Today, my guest is Ramona Kosawin. I'm sorry, Ramona. I'm going to ask you to correct me. Ramona, today, I'm going to just introduce Ramona. Ramona helps women revitalize and fall in love with themselves like a breath of fresh air. So they see their non-negotiable worth, and it becomes easy and automatic to make their well-being a priority. As a certified gentle trauma release practitioner and multifaceted coach, Ramona is passionate about helping women gently release old patterns for good, so they feel powerful in their lives and bodies. Welcome, Ramona. So tell me again how to say your last name.
Kosawin.
Kosawin. Okay, so I wasn't totally off, but I was off. So you work with as a gentle release practitioner. Can you maybe explain what that means?
Yeah, so I was certified just over 4 years ago. It's called Gentle Trauma Release. So this is a standalone certification, and this is separate from other things like fitness and nutrition. Like, yes, those pieces can be added, but this is a specific thing. And it's a holistic and complementary way of addressing trauma for the vast segment of the population who's not clinically diagnosed with trauma, but experiencing the effects of it. And it's based on working with the nervous system and other elements like there's elements of psychology, talk therapy, coaching, and other modalities, but it's meant to take from the place of directly addressing trauma to clearing the aftermath to equipping a client to maintain their well-being long-term. So it feels complete.
But not right. So it's not necessarily trauma like sexual abuse, or it could be, but yes. It's all kinds of trauma, from the smallest, like when we all have those limiting beliefs when we're up to 7 years old, where we might have been told that for whatever reason you're stupid or whatever. It's also part of that, like we're releasing limiting beliefs.
Yes, and quite often people aren't aware of the beliefs per se. It's coming as an undercurrent of nervous system and identity. When I'm working with people, I don't differentiate big T, little t. I absolutely can work with clients who've had incredibly painful and devastating experiences and help them to clear that to a place that it feels complete. So this isn't just fluffy stuff. But most of us underestimate the sum of our experiences and how they are keeping us limited. And it keeps us from expanding into growth and change because our primitive brain is not there for that. It's there to keep us safe, which also means limited and stuck.
Right. Yeah, and that totally makes sense.
Mm.
And so, like you made a comment how we don't really know, like our limiting beliefs and where they come from. So what do you mean by that?
Well, quite often when I first connect with women, I do work primarily with women because I get them, right? They might have a surface level situation. If they're entrepreneurs, I keep undercharging. I'm afraid to show up. I procrastinate on important projects. Or they might be focusing on their body. Well, if I could just lose weight, everything would be okay. So when I connect with people in this way, I'm not going straight to the quote problem. I will acknowledge what they're telling me and then look for what's underneath, which there's a process for this. It's not hit and miss. And address what's underneath. That is their body on the most unconscious level protecting them. And quite often we can't articulate it until we kind of get gently under those layers. I'm not worthy comes up, really. If it's on the deepest level, we don't walk around thinking I'm not worthy. Of course, we don't walk around thinking that all the time. I know I'm a good person. I know I'm smart. I know I'm capable. I'm great. Underneath, there's some part of you that's saying, no, you're not worthy. You're not safe. Who are you to do this? Who are you to think that? You're not safe to be seen like that. It's selfish. Those are all things that come up gently and authentically and organically through the process of being safe enough to connect to that part of you.
Yeah, and we don't even realize it until someone, really points it out.
No,
right?
Because we're not constructing it. Okay, I have this list of beliefs. Can you help me address these?
Right.
It's not usually the case.
Right. It's not like, most people today are not looking at, a list of feelings and, where am I today on the scale of, 1 to 10 and what's holding me back? No, like the average person isn't doing that. And so how do they know that they need help? Right. Like most of the time women are coming to you because, they don't know that they're having trauma, but they're obviously, struggling in one area of life, and that's what brings them to you. Am I right?
Yeah. So quite often when women actually feel courageous enough to take that step and go, I need to do something, there's some kind of a catalyst that pushes them beyond their resilience threshold, like a disruption in their life, a loss, an upheaval, a big transition, divorce, caring for an elderly parent, empty nest, or some other kind of upheaval that all that trauma they're carrying in their nervous system, in their body, is pushed to a level that it bubbles over and now their resilience is gone. So quite often it's I'm stressed all the time, I'm anxious all the time, or I'm soothing myself with alcohol or other substances or with food, right? So it's quite often a very pressing symptom that they might look to first. I just want to stop feeling anxious all the time. I actually want to like myself.
Yeah. And the whole, like you said, losing weight, and they're like, they don't lose weight. Like, they're going on diets and they lose, they'll lose 30 pounds if that's what they need to. And then it slowly creeps back on them. Right. Yeah. That's part of, that whole trauma, right, that you're allowing them to let go of. Maybe let's speak a little bit about that weight loss thing, because I think a lot of women struggle with that. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And I know myself, like, it's not about the food. Right. I know that now.
There's layers to this, of course. But when I connect with a woman who's been compulsively dieting or body bashing or had really issues with body image or like weight gain and weight loss cycles, or maybe weight gain to the point that it's really threatening their health, it's not just vanity, but they just can't seem to bring the pieces together. I know there's typically going to be some issues with emotions and trauma underneath. Even if there wasn't blatant abuse, quite often there was, to be honest. Most women have experienced some unwelcome things. Okay, so when I'm working, like I had a client, for example, who after working together for a few months, lost a very significant amount of weight over a long period of time, gently and easily and effortlessly. This was the key thing, effortless. Okay. So the what I think is the most important thing is restoring your connection to your body, because trauma pulls you out to protect you, pulls you out. So what you're doing is suppressing, ignoring, not recognizing the signs of what your body needs. And you might be throwing in some behaviors there that help to numb your nervous system. So when the need for those behaviors goes away and you start to lovingly respond to your body's needs, you can find that healthy way of existing in your body. It doesn't mean you need to look like a runway model, right? It just means that you find your flow. You naturally, organically, without overthinking it, start to take care of yourself. And that's at the core of it.
Right. But I mean, there's more to it than looking after yourself, right? I mean, there's once you get rid of those limiting beliefs, and we can release them, right? And that's what your job is, right?
Yeah.
Let those go. Let them put them back in the air where they belong, right? They don't need to be here.
To the universe.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, that isn't an easy process, right? I've gone through it myself. I'm sure you've gone through similar, like it's not easy to let go of the beliefs that we hold on to, right? And lots of times, and I'm sure you can, speak to this as well. If you as a coach say to me as a client, Tina, you're holding on to this belief, but is that true for you anymore? And I look at you and go, what? Like, I didn't even know that existed. Mm-hmm. Right. And so how do you deal with that at the time? There must be some kind of coaching around that, because if I'm in disbelief, but holding on to it.
Yes.
I need to come into agreement with that first, right?
Yeah. And it's not even so much on the cognitive level, not in the early stages. So can I give an example?
Please. Yes.
Because trauma is at the root of it. So when we address the trauma, your brain will start to think differently on its own without me telling you. It happens naturally. So I had a client who's actually going to share a video testimonial, and I'm excited to share. So we worked together for 3 calls. Okay. So in that time, we addressed some past trauma. Did we talk about her weight? No. Did we talk about her limiting beliefs? No. We knew they were there. We're acknowledging them. We did not address that. We addressed the trauma. So in this case, there was some bullying that had happened, around like grade 12 years old or so, humiliating, embarrassing, shaming, and sprinkle that stuff about her body. So we, in 3 calls, everything changed. Okay, so what happened is she noticed, I actually don't feel critical about my body anymore. I actually like going to the gym. It doesn't mean that going to the gym is your thing, but for her. And I actually find myself just taking care of myself easily. And by taking care of, I'm like prioritizing sleep, eating good, nutritious, nourishing food when you need it, right? This happened organically. So this is what I find is so freeing. When we address the trauma underneath, your brain starts to work differently, and it's not so hard. We're not tackling the beliefs bit by bit. We might look for the residue after. And one of the differences is that I have a few protocols that I work with addressing the emotion in the body. So you can release the emotion in your body, because you may not even know what memory or experience tells your body disbelief.
Or where it is in your body.
Yeah, it might have started when you were 3, right? And also, I do have some inner critic work that I do with clients, but not until we've cleared enough trauma that they're back in their body. And then it's easier. It's not so hard. You're just flipping a few switches here and there instead of like pushing a boulder up the hill.
Right. Wow. So that I love this stuff. Eh? Like, I love how our brains hold on. Well, it's not even our brains. Like, so our bodies, whether it's physical or emotional, we hold on to stuff that we don't even know that we're holding on to. It's not like, when you put things into your wallet, you know what you're putting in there and you know what you want to hold in there. But in our bodies, we don't have that choice, right? Like, our body just unconsciously holds on to stuff that, things it might need at some point in our life, right? And so as life goes on, it just keeps piling up and piling up. And so when a woman comes to you and is like, I'd love to know how their reactions, how some of these women are reacting to the stuff that you're showing them, right? The stuff that you're like, did you know that you were holding on to this? Or when they realize that they're holding on to it, like, what is their reaction to you? Like, they must love you. They must, like, well, Ramona, you're the best thing ever.
I'm going to add a little preface just to help, because sometimes there's a stigma attached to trauma. It's only this, or this. Trauma is simply distress without resolve. So for example, if you were faced with a robbery, you punch them in the face and you ran for your life, it's resolved, okay? So the unresolved part is your body bracing for that threat until the end of time, okay? So whatever it is, the threat is your body. That's trauma, bracing for threat. So, obviously I'm establishing with a woman a level of safety, right? There has to be safety in that human presence because I'm sitting with them in a vulnerable place. But it's because this work is body-based and vocal, I'm looking at what's happening with their body, right? So usually they won't come to the place of truth themselves. I will help them to get there and find it. But when you touch on the truth, you either have laughter, tears, or some kind of a body shift, like your body goes,
right, your body reacts,
melt into your chair.
Right,
so
right.
That's where I help them to discover, okay, what's underneath that? Okay, let's get to that. Let's clear it. So your body goes, okay, that threat's resolved and I feel safe. And that's where your brain starts to change. And you're like, you see things differently through different lenses because your primitive brain is no longer going, brace for threat, brace for threat. Your creative brain is going, oh, I see other options here. I see I have more autonomy in this situation than I thought.
Right. Right. Well, it's just so, it's so like, I don't know. I just find it fascinating how our bodies, can be reacting to something that happened so long ago. Right?
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah.
The time doesn't matter. Like your unconscious mind does not care or differentiate with the passage of time or logic. But I think a couple things I would like to instill in women is your body is made to heal. It's a healing machine. So when we remove the obstacles or bring in what's needed, you are literally a healing machine, which is amazing. And also your body's wise. So this is where I love to unshame. I follow David Bedrick. He talks about this a lot, is unshaming. So we're not shaming the responses our body had to keep us safe, whether it's people pleasing, porous boundaries, soothing with food or alcohol. We're not shaming that. Your body was wise. It was protecting you from pain. So when we come to that place of self-compassion and self-love, that's super important to pave the road for future goals and expanding into this new version of you. I don't judge any part of my body now. I don't judge any part of my past self who did the best she could with the resources she had.
Right. And that is something that, we all need to remember, right? You do at the time the best you can with what you know. Yeah. Right. And that goes for like in any situation in your life, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like how you said that so eloquently. So we could talk about the whole, I think you touched really well on the, how like with the weight loss, how, we're not like, it's not always the food. I mean, the food doesn't help for sure, right? If we're not eating the right foods, our body's going to save that. But it's a lot of times we're eating emotionally, right? We're eating to hide that feeling or to, we think, it's same as drinking or, doing drugs and all that stuff. We have a feeling inside of us that we don't like, but if we eat or we drink, we kind of push it away and suppress it, right? We think we're doing our emotions well, but truthfully, we are not, right?
Yeah, our brain's checked out. Like, I can share another brief example if you like.
Sure, please.
There's a woman I had connected with in her early 60s. Carrying a lifetime of trauma from childhood experiences to a previous marriage. So she was now in a good place with a good man, a good marriage, grown kids, healthy, happy kids. But then the symptoms were coming up. So if we bring in the factor of weight, she had struggled with weight loss on and off and gone on a popular weight loss program, on and off, always came to a certain place and then would backtrack or slide down and always got stuck, right? So when we started working together, we were not focused on her weight. We were addressing the trauma and the symptoms that were coming with it. But what happened is a few months into her coaching, she stopped following this program, this weight loss program that she had been diligently trying to follow with her adult daughter, stopped needing it, and lost like 60 pounds. Slowly and gradually over time, we were not focusing on weight loss together. But what happened is it made it easier for her to connect to her body. The guilt and shame and the food obsession started to evaporate on its own. And even her weight loss coach noticed like something's different about you, right? So the pain behind it was gone. The pain, she was recognizing the pain in the other women who were struggling as well, right? Now, there's things to be said for practical steps and knowledge. For most women, that's not the problem. So I like to marry, the inner work. So your inner state is resilient, self-loving, with the outer steps that are important, like fueling your body with satisfaction and not the diet mindset that hurts you, and also strengthening your body, because women, you need to be strong, right? So I like to marry the practical steps with first creating that inner environment that matches the outcome you desire.
I love that. I love that. That's like matching the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, right? Making them work together, because we all know that, we can make goals, that's consciously, right? But unconsciously, if our brain is not on the same page as our conscious mind, it's not going to happen. It's
going to keep you safe by, quote, sabotaging you in its own primitive way. That makes perfect sense to your unconscious mind. So this is where I like to think about, let's make it easier. How can we make it easier? We make it easier by removing what's in the way, which is the limiting effects of trauma in your nervous system first, and then we can bring in the other pieces, right? And it's just easier to implement. It's not so sticky.
Yeah, exactly. So I wonder, like, how you said, the inner environment has to match the outer environment. How do you coach women to become friends with themselves again, right? Like, I think most women who haven't gone through like a self-coaching, self-love experience, right? We're not always friends with ourselves. The first time I heard that, I was like, what? Like, how? But how do you do that? How do you teach women that you need to be friends and you need to love yourself first before you can love anyone else?
Yeah. Well, we address, as I, kind of shared a little bit, like we address first what's in the way, which is traumatic events, memories, and emotions that keep you frozen in that place. And typically with relational trauma, the inner critic is especially loud. Like we all have one, but it can become, it can overtake you. So there is work in between where we're clearing the trauma aftermath. So one of the things that is kind of fun and playful is to explore with women, what are your archetypes that stepped up? Who did you need to become to be safe? And by safe, I mean desirable, lovable, worthy, not offending anyone, or to somehow function in the environment that you were in, right? So you will have a persona, and I help women to get to know her in a playful way and have love and compassion for this version of you who kept you safe, but she's not equipped to run your life because she's not the wholeness of you. The wholeness of you is wise. The wholeness of you is self-loving. That is who you are. We just need to reconnect you to that. So we're clearing what's in the way. We're making friends with the old versions of you and bringing them home to love and be safe and stop running your life.
I love that. And that comes to there's four voices that we hear in our head, right? There's the inner critic, the inner child, which I know for myself, I shut that voice down like a long time ago, right? And then we have the ego and the intuition. And I mean, clearly, right, there's the two main ones are the inner critic and the ego, right? Those ones, they run most of our systems. Am I right?
Yeah. So it's one of the fun ways that we can play with the archetypes that I learned through the SWAT Institute, one of my coaching certifications, is the mother and the child energy. So they're on different ends of the spectrum, but in between is the woman, which is you, the wholeness, the empowered you. So mother energy, you can maybe picture someone like this. Mother energy might be the martyr. Take over functioning in relationships, over functioning at work, porous boundaries and self-neglect, not connected to her body, just overgiving, okay? The mother energy might be the ruler, like she's still stressed out, burned out, and doing too much, but she's like my way or the highway. That's more like my archetype. My wounded self was the mother ruler because I was the oldest child of 7 in a religious family. Right?
There was a lot of responsibility on your shoulders.
Yeah, and just that was my protection, right? So healing was to let her take a back seat with love and knowing that the wholeness of me includes my soft parts. And the child might be different. She might be the wallflower who just kind of shrinks into the background, keeps everybody happy, or doesn't rock the boat. Or she might be the rebel who is out breaking all the rules. And if you tell her to do something, even if it's something that she wants to do, like for her business, that feels like a rule. So I'm going to throw that right out the window. I'm going to sabotage the hell out of that, jump into my car that has 15 empty Diet Coke cans in the back and an ashtray full of cigarettes. I'm going to rip off to the next rock concert. So that's the teenager rebel, right? So those are all fragments of us, but our whole self is empowered, has boundaries rather than walls, and is able to give and receive. So feeling worthy of receiving is a big part of cultivating that self-love, is being worthy of receiving.
Right. I love that. I love that. I love that. Yeah. I used to call mine teenage Tina, when, the rebel came out, right?
Yep.
Or she is, she didn't get hurt as a teenager. So here she is, right? She wants to be.
Yep.
Yeah. So I wonder now, I know we could talk about how you coach women and what kind of coaching you've done, but what I would really like to know is what brought you to doing this kind of coaching?
Well, I think it just evolved over time. Like, honestly, I'm like a slow growth project to finally find my thing. But I started out, I always liked the idea of having a business, helping people and empowering people. So I started out following my mother's footsteps in herbal wellness and empowering people with choices, but it wasn't fully my thing, right? So as I expanded into layers, fitness became part of it. I used to coach a holistic weight loss program. And then I started to recognize emotions. And it's like, I just can't help this woman because she's giving up on herself and she feels so much guilt and shame. And I felt like my hands were tied. So that's when I started to consider life coaching. What's that, right? Because I had a life coach myself at one point, launching my business. And that's when I learned about personal empowerment coaching. And I'm like, ooh, working with the emotions. Tell me more about that. And during that course, I believe there's intersections where you meet with key opportunities. And I met with the key opportunity, which was the founder of the Gentle Trauma Release Institute, recognizing as she coached me through my practice calls. She was one of the staff at this coaching school, what trauma was looking like and showing up. I'm like, oh, because I wasn't able to help some people the way some people I could do the empowerment coaching, everything went great. And those are the ones I'm like, I feel like I just got like nothing. And she helped me understand what trauma was, how it showed up, and invited me to take the program. So I felt kind of scared, like it was a big step forward, but I'm like, it was a hell yes. Like, yes, absolutely. Like, are you kidding me? I can actually do this and help people. Really? Right. And so I graduated the first in Canada 4 years ago. But I think it's that balance of the earthy me who wants to ground people and be like this healing space, with the part who wants to be a leader and show up and show people what's possible and stop messing around and just get to the problem, right? So there's that healthy marriage of both that for me is super satisfying.
I love that. I love that. Well, and the thing is, we all have reasons for doing what we do, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, they're all different and they're all important. I mean, it doesn't really matter why you're doing what you're doing. You have a purpose, you have a service to give, and you're doing the best you can. Now, if a woman wanted to come work with you, you work mostly with women, or do you work with men as well?
Yeah, mostly with women, because that's been who I've cultivated in my audience and my connections. I've recently started working with some men, which has been really fun. So I do work with men. It's just when you see me on social media, my website, it's speaking to women.
Okay.
Right.
So a woman wanted to come work with you, and she didn't really know what she wants to work with.
Mhm.
You obviously would clear that up for her. You would work, tell her, okay, let's start from the beginning. Where is the beginning for you?
Yeah. Actually, what we focus on, which makes it really easy, is what symptoms are you experiencing right now? Physical, emotional, and cognitive symptoms. What's coming up? When did they start? When did they get worse? Did they come out of nowhere? So we actually focus on the symptoms first. So it might be the emotional symptoms, like I just feel so anxious all the time, or physical symptoms. Well, for the last 6 months, I have had to take drugs to sleep and caffeine to get through the day, right? So I look at symptoms first, and then where there's a little breadcrumb leading back to what brought them there. So then I give them the option to address that, because that's usually what's going on.
Right.
And there might be something that happened in the last 6 months, 3 months, year, that triggered a switch, like their resilience threshold was surpassed in some way. So then I just let them know how I work with women and see if they're open to it, and if they want to move forward in a way that I can help them with.
Right, exactly. And so you're also a personal trainer, am I right?
Yes, I do fitness training, and I also do food relationship coaching. So it's like a satisfaction, moderation 365, it's called, to help break up with dieting.
Food relationship coaching. That
Yeah.
I think that would be super interesting, especially when you're like putting in the emotional trauma release, and then that, oh my gosh. Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. I don't want to keep you all day, because I know we can talk, because
I have time.
When it comes to the brain, right? Like I have millions of questions, because I love how it, moves the body. Yeah. But let's talk about this relationship with food and how it affects our day-to-day life.
Yeah. So, when I learned about this, it's called Moderation 365 as a certification. It aligned with my values, because I recognized how triggering dieting and weight loss focused actions are to a lot of women, especially if they've been in that space for a while and then trauma wraps up in it, right? It's doing them a disservice. I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting to enhance your physique. There's nothing wrong with wanting to lose some weight if that's your goal. But I find it can be sabotaging to focus on the outcome. So this particular program that I can integrate into anything I'm doing with a woman, it's fine, or it can be standalone, is to build a foundation. So whatever your goal is, to build a foundation where you can feel at ease with food and support your most important and valuable goals in a way that feels almost effortless, like semi-automation. Like there's low-level thinking. Yes, we need to think about what we put on our bodies. Do we need to think about it 24/7? No, we don't. You have better things to do in your life than think about food 24/7. Like seriously, there's more to you than this. So we break the emotional charge attached to illicit foods and all the rules that are swimming around in your head and occupying all your bandwidth, and make it very simple and easy to automate how you live with food and navigate situations like travel or holidays without it becoming an anxiety problem, right? So this, I think, goes right hand in hand with my values. And this, I would think about this also as addressing the residue of trauma. So when trauma has been addressed and we're okay, what's left? Well, we have some triggering relationships with food. How can we make this work better for you?
Oh, I love that. And so it's not necessarily you telling your client what to eat, when to eat it. It's more about, like, I'm guessing, right? I mean, you didn't actually say it this way, but I'm guessing that it's more about, what is it doing for me? Yeah. Right? Like, is this something that really is going to satisfy me in a physical and emotional way? Or am I eating it because I've always eaten it?
Yeah. So it helps remove the judgment, right? And there is structure too. You're not just fully winging it, but you're co-creating. Like there's some foundational pieces, like what are your daily nutritional commitments that move the needle towards your goals? what are the rules that are not important that you can get rid of, like not eating after 7 or something like that, right? So can we just get rid of that rule and focus on just your daily nutritional commitments? It might be 3, 4, 5, maybe 2 if you're like overwhelmed. And then there's some pieces we add in strategically. So adding a nutritional relief of foods or that bring a little spark of joy that aren't a full out over the top indulgence, right? Because we can't have over top indulgences all the time, right? So what satisfies your body so you'll feel like, I'm good. That satisfaction, I'm good. And then we also resolve trigger foods. Like say if you have chips in the house, well, I can't have chips in the house. Well, long term, you need to be able to be around certain things without inhaling the whole thing. So we actually do processes to resolve that. So if you choose to have chips, you can eat some mindfully, put them away, and not just go crazy, right? So those are all very practical, real steps that get you to the place where you're like, I'm good.
I love that. I love that. So I had 2 things that I wanted to ask or bring up with that. The first one I'm going to say, so my husband was the very first person that pointed out to me. I remember when my kids were quite little, 11 and younger anyway, and they were eating, I don't know if it was cookies or chips or something. And when I have 3 kids. So when they took out this, whatever bag it was, they pretty much ate the whole thing. And so my husband he wanted to have a bite, and there was only 2 pieces left. So it must have been cookies because, there was, I think, 2 cookies. And he said to them, now what are you going to eat tomorrow? Now that you've eaten all of this. And I looked at him like, what? Like, what do you mean tomorrow? They want it now, right? Like, why would they not eat it now if they don't know if they're going to want it tomorrow? And he's like, if you eat everything right now from the bag, right, then there's none for tomorrow if you want another one tomorrow. I was like, oh my God, I never, ever in my life thought of that. Right. I used to, like, if I want, like, I never, not that I always ate the whole bag of cookies. Right. But I mean, let's face it, it's easy to do. Right.
Oh, yeah.
But
these foods are made to be addictive.
I was never thinking like, I'm only going to have 3 now so that I can have 3 tomorrow. Right. It was just like, oh my God, I'm so full. I can't believe I ate all that. Right. Yeah. And then I moved along. So when you said that, I was like, oh my God, I remember that. But I also wanted to ask about the eating after 7. Mm-hmm. So you said, let's get rid of that rule altogether.
Yeah, that's an example.
Yeah, right. Okay. Mm-hmm. It was an example, but is that like realistic? Is that a goal that you would say to a client, let's get rid of that goal?
I help them determine their rules. So they might have a list of 15 rules. And we pull out, okay, what is actually most important to focus on right now that actually moves the needle towards your goals?
Oh, I see. Okay, right? So I understood that. Okay.
So in this case, that's a rule a client came up with. It's not eating after 6 p.m. or not eating after 7 p.m. I'm like, is that in the grand scheme of things with these other things, is that the most important thing? And they're like, no, not really. So, and I love too what you brought up because it brought out the point of scarcity. This program is meant to address scarcity mindset around food. I better do it up right now because I might not have a chance tomorrow when the cookies are gone. I better do it up right now because my Aunt Jane's trifle won't be here tomorrow, right? So whatever it is, I better do it up right now because Monday the diet starts. That scarcity mindset, which promotes overindulgence and mindless eating. So yeah, it's just about coming to that place of trusting yourself without the judgment, and stop swinging the pendulum from deprivation and restriction to overindulgence. So you can walk that middle ground and eat what feels like a normal human.
Right, right. I've always admired people that, you can go to a dinner or something with and I've had enough and dessert hasn't even come out yet. Right. I always look at these people like, what?
Yeah,
like
well,
dessert
wait a minute.
Right? Like I don't eat dessert at home. So when I go out to a restaurant or to a party, I want the dessert, right? I'm like, that's what I look forward to, right? Mm-hmm. So when someone says, oh, I'm full, I can't eat that, I'm like, what is wrong with these people? Yeah. That's me, right? I mean, that's how I work because I don't eat dessert at home. I mean, I have ice cream and I have cookies but I don't really make dessert, right? Except, for Christmas and whatever. But yeah, so I'm always like, it's funny how our minds are all so different when it comes to food, right? My mom, I remember growing up, my mom would forget to eat. right? Because she
Yeah,
was busy.
that I don't understand.
Yeah,
Not a
I'm
problem
like,
for me.
how did you forget, right?
Oh
Like
my
I
gosh.
remember, you know, the year I was getting married, there were days where she'd say, "Oh my God, all I ate today was a small yogurt," and I'd be like, "How?
Yeah.
Like, how are you still alive?" Right? But we're all different. I mean, if you asked her today, she's completely different, right? She looks forward to the next meal she's going to have now. She's like, "So when are we eating next?" You know, but I mean, that's, you know, but that's all, like, our minds are all different, and the relationship we all have with our food, each one is individual and separate, right? I mean, we can't, there's no rule, right? There's no rule to whatever relationship it is that you have. You just have to make it work with you and your life.
Yeah, I find when you can simplify things, you don't have 50 different tabs open in your brain focusing on all the rules. You focus on the needle movers, because there are needle movers that help you move towards your goals, whether it's health, strength, fitness, losing body weight, gaining muscle, whatever. But when you can come to that place of focusing on just the needle movers and feel like proud of yourself because it's actually almost effortless and it's becoming semi-automated, life's more fun.
Yeah, isn't that the truth? And when you can have more fun in your life, you're opening up the door to so many different things, right?
Yeah.
Because everything can be fun. Like going to work will be fun, and you know, having like relationships will be fun. Like, yeah, I agree. I think fun is super, super important. Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want our listeners to hear?
I don't know, because I didn't really go in with a preset thing. Is there anything that you feel like is like missing in the gaps?
I don't think so.
Oh.
I think we talked about everything. I mean, you and I had a little chat not too long ago, and we sort of talked about, you know, what we would talk about today. And so I think we talked about everything that we had planned to, but you know, it's been, I don't know how many weeks, it's been a few weeks, and things come up. And in the coaching world, I'm learning that, you know, what you think your problem is today, tomorrow it's something else. And so, you know, like, if there's anything else that you feel we need to add in here, you know, please, by all means. Otherwise, you know, our listeners can get in touch with you. We have the all your social media and your contact information in the show notes. Yeah. So
well, I think like we spent some time talking about trauma because this is like I think such a pivotal, game-changing piece for every woman I've ever worked with, right? Regardless of what initially came up as the problem. I think it's also helpful, like, to understand for me, so I'm not about, okay, we got to do trauma work, we got to do trauma work, we got to do trauma work. Maybe you're not there. What I think is important when you're working with people with their emotions and their habits and their behaviors, even as a business coach, is to know that trauma is going to come up. It's going to show up in some way. So it's super valuable for me to know that if it does come up, even if we're not purposely working to access that, that I'm able to address it with the woman. We can address it when it shows up, so that we don't have to keep sidestepping around it and dancing around it and trying to work through it all the time. So it just gives me confidence and peace to know that, you know, if we're working together with something that I'm equipped to help you with, I have the tools to support you.
I love that. And keep in mind that trauma is not always something major.
No, it's not at
even
all.
Just that one kid in school that called you fat and ugly once.
Yeah.
That's enough. That is enough to bring trauma to the rest of your life, right?
You're bracing for that threat, or you're trying too hard to prove that you're not this thing, right? So this is where it just helps to be able to have the capacity to support women when their unconscious nervous system is repeating something, or they're having a sticking point. Where am I stuck? Right? We can just kind of get curious and get at, well, let's see what might be like going on for you. So it just gives me so much joy, because then I know it doesn't need to be so hard. You don't need to keep trying so hard. And that to me is like, oh, good.
Yeah, isn't that the truth, right?
Yeah.
Life doesn't have to be hard. There's enough hard things that we have to do and go through that if we can make life easier and simpler, please let's do what we can. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Ramona. This has been great. And like I said, I mean, I'm going to see you in the coaching world. I know that because I've met you many times. We will talk about this, all this coaching stuff, because I love it. I just love, I get so like excited when I hear about it. So thank you again for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, always.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.